Welcome into your 15-minute weather. I'm meteorologist John Zeigler. What a weekend, what a week that we've had in the state of Minnesota and Wisconsin, obviously with the record-breaking snowfall across Wausau. I don't want to forget about northern Wisconsin there. First, we're going to hit you with the forecast. Then we're going to take a deep dive into all things snowpack. You know, what happened over the weekend. We'll talk about areas in northern and northeastern Minnesota with multiple feet of snow still on the ground today and the impacts that it's going to have lingering into this week. We might all be warm. Some folks might not actually get warm. 32 degrees right now, sunny skies. By the afternoon, 45. Now, because there's not a ton of moisture out there anymore, I do believe we're going to start riding above model average, at least on a day like today where you have south winds. So don't be shocked if you see temperatures in the high 40s, 48, 49, definitely possible. And that's what happened this weekend, right? You didn't have snow, you didn't have as much lingering moisture, and that allowed temperatures to soar, and we saw that on Saturday. I'm not saying it's going to soar, but it's going to be better than yesterday. Sunday, surprisingly enough, was still 1 degree above average, even though we were all complaining that it was cold. Today, very seasonal day, and actually in March, when you think about seasonal days, those are actually more rare than chaotic days, right? You're not going to have a lot of days within a 4-degree temperature spread of the average. Today is one of those rare ones because we're just passing back above it, and today we're passing over the average line. We're going to be in the 50s and 60s by the time we go into the next few days. So for the folks who just want the forecast, 49, 56, 62. Now, the Wednesday to me looks like the best chance to have sunshine. A little more sunshine going to break in here. Now, Tuesday, the reason I think there'll be more of a thick cloud layer is because the warm front is going to be passing by that day. So again, we're still pretty cold. So this morning we were in the teens, right? Lows in the teens and low 20s. So that air is cold, it's dense, it's sitting close to the surface. So when you ride the warm front up, it only makes sense. First day, which will be tomorrow, this should be a little more cloud cover. Maybe once we settle into the warmth on Wednesday, we can get that afternoon sun. If we pull out that sunshine on Wednesday, the temperature is going to take off again. So I'm not saying it can't get warmer than 62, but we're still 3 days out, and we would need all things to work out. Thursday, we got another system coming in. It's weak. All in all, I do not expect a lot of rain. This whole week, I got about 1/10 of an inch of precip the whole week. So no, it's not going to, there's no bad days here. But Thursday, we're going to start off warm. Then we're going to start pulling in a north wind. It looks like Friday is going to be the coldest day of the work week. And then Saturday and Sunday, we're going to start warming it up. Now, if you look at last Saturday, when we were 7 days out, the temperature we had in the 50s, and it ended up being almost 80. So if we keep trending it higher, who knows, Sunday we could get even warmer. I don't think the warmth, the ridge doesn't look as extreme over the weekend, but I still believe it's going to be warm. Now, this is really the culprit to the record-breaking temperature that we had on Saturday. This is the snow depth the past 2 weeks, and you can see 0, 0, 0, 0, snowstorm, 7, 8 inches of snow. Now, remember, snow depth and snow accumulation, totally different. There's compacting that actually happens whenever you get a large snowstorm. So we had compacting. Now, I had talked about this last Friday, or Thursday, if you were with me on the 15-minute weather. I talked about how this was a vulnerable snowpack to melt quickly because it was only one snow. It hadn't compacted from multiple snows. And we're going to talk about a place like Grand Marais, who's had a winter's-long snow depth with compacting snow. So there's more liquid in the snow depth, right? Our snow depth was just 1 inch. So there was 1 inch of liquid in the 7 inches of snow, or about, obviously, maybe a little bit less than that. Regardless, I didn't see it going from 7 to 0 in 2 days. To get to that 79-degree temp that we had on Saturday, we had to have nothing on the ground. Well, on Thursday, we had 7 inches. So there's no way you could have forecasted 80 degrees. I mean, I guess you could have. It would have been reckless. But yeah, we melted 4 and then 3, and then it was gone. And it was incredible. Never seen snow melt faster, but that is exactly why we were able to warm up. Because one thing that people don't really understand is, how do you get extreme warmth? Especially at a time like this, you need low dew points, low moisture content. The higher the moisture content, so water runoff, whether it's higher dew points, whatever it's going to be, your temperature won't be able to take off. Temperatures warm better in a dry atmosphere. That's why you want to melt all of that snow so the snow can melt. And then the temperature, but you can't have it, you can't be in the middle of it, you can't be on the 19th here with 3 inches. There was too much water out there. It was just a perfect setup. Now look at the actual snow depth around the Minnesota-Wisconsin area. How about Wausau going 30, what was that, 33, 34 inches? I don't know the exact inch amount, but the all-time snow event for Wausau, and they have less than an inch of snow on the ground. That's insane. Areas up towards Marquette, multiple 100 inches of snow up there. They still have a decent depth. But Grand Marais, the North Shore, had a really strong winter. At this moment, you could see they're at 16 to 24 inches of snow. Now, I did go look at some local reports from Grand Marais, and they had 29. Now, I don't know if I believe it to the exact inch, but it at least makes you believe there's more than 2 feet of snow in areas up in Grand Marais once you get on the North Shore. And they've had a really strong winter, only on the North Shore. They have been about average for snow depth in Duluth and about on average in International Falls. But a couple things you can take here: Bemidji, Brainerd, Alexandria, St. Cloud, you can now skyrocket if you get the right temperature. You're not going to see Grand Marais for a long time warming into the 50s and 60s. They're just not going to do it. There'd have to be a perfect southwest wind, no influence from the lake to warm up with snow depth, and that's not going to happen. So Grand Marais is still locked into winter with multiple feet of snow on the ground. Now, when you look at the next 6 to 10 days, if you don't realize it, temperatures in Phoenix, Vegas, they've been already in the triple digits. These are record-shattering temperatures out there. Well, how does that matter for us? Well, I'll show you here. I'll draw it. You can see there's going to be this, what we call, it's a monster ridge that's still in place out here. Now, this typically means, because you got to remember that, so if the jet is way up here in Canada, that means a couple of things to me. One, it's going to stay very warm, especially in the plains and out on the West Coast and out in the desert. Two, the systems ride on the jet. Remember, I was talking about the jet stream is the highway for low pressure centers, right? So if this is the highway, if this is 94, the lows are going to be trekking up on the jet, and they're going to stay north of us, and maybe they visit us like you're going to actually see here when we show you a surface map. They might clip us, and typically if, let's say a low goes across Grand Marais, we get the tail of it. We get a little cold front. You might get some volatility. When lows pass to your north, you get more volatility with the temperatures. You get some precip, but not as much in the way of, say, just swings. Temperature swings are all over the place. So that's what you're going to notice. And how that looks is you can put a low pressure center on here. So a low, when a low goes to your north like this, so this is what it'll look like over the next few days. That's massive, but you get what I'm saying. So the reason for that is they still carry cold fronts on them, but ahead of the cold front, temperatures actually spike. So temperatures will warm, just like Tuesday and Wednesday this week. So we'll see that, and then you get smacked with the cold front, and then you'll go down, and then you'll go back up. So even though we're in an above average period, when low pressure centers are still close to you to your north, it doesn't impact you as much with precip. It does, however, give you those temperature swings, and then you can see the trough, the part out here towards Buffalo, Boston, and the northeast. They will be getting colder than average temperatures because they're still in the trough side of this whole deal. But yeah, I mean, you go out to Vegas, Phoenix for spring break, it's going to be like middle of July out there, 100-degree temperatures over the next 10 days. So we don't see that pattern necessarily changing. Now, you can see precip chances over the next 6 to 10 days are going to be higher, but mainly focused to the northeast. And that's the exact same reasoning for what I just showed you. That jet stream is going to be coming in from Alberta and then ride down across Lake Superior and Lake Michigan. So there'll be some moisture, but it typically underperforms when they, of course, come out of Canada like that. All right, well, let's talk about a couple other things that are happening right now. We're running out of our maximum amount of sunlight gained per day. Now, if you don't realize it, what month gains the most sunlight all year long? It's March. And then it's April, and then it's February. But we're at the absolute apex, the peak of sunlight gained per day. We're 3 minutes and 9 seconds. That lasts for another 3 days. So 3 more days of 3 minutes and 9 seconds. And then it'll go to 3 minutes and 8 seconds, and then 3 minutes and 7 seconds. And then as you get closer to the summer solstice, this will eventually get to around 0, right? And then we'll start losing this once we get into 4th of July. Now, the reason you don't notice the sunlight lost or gained in middle of summer is because you're only talking about seconds gained or lost. So even in June, you're maybe gaining, 10, 20, 30 seconds. But right now, you're noticing it. So tonight, the sunset is at 7:29. And we talk about this as more of solar spring. And this is when you're rapidly gaining. So you start this in February. Now, technically, you're gaining daylight in January. We are actually gaining that daylight in January. But we talk about, okay, winter solstice, right? December 21st. Okay, so 22nd, 23rd, 20, right up to Christmas, you're only gaining 10 seconds, 20 seconds. In January, you start gaining about a minute. And then in February, you start gaining 2 minutes. And February is where I always start to notice it. But in March and early April, we are absolutely ripping when it comes to adding sunlight. It's the best thing. Now it plateaus in May, June, July. You don't really notice that. And then August, September is where you lose the most daylight. So I know everyone loves fall, but it's tough, right? It starts to get extremely dark. All right, back to more of the forecast here, and then we'll wrap this thing up. So Saturday, 79 degrees was the record. Now the old record, I thought we would have just absolutely smoked this old record, but we only beat it by 3. 76 degrees, this was set back in 1938. It took all those perfect scenarios to come together to actually break that record, and we did it. We didn't actually hit 80, but we had 86 down in the southwest parts of Minnesota. So this is volatile. I talked earlier about this as well. You know, how many days are close to average? We'll just take a look at the temperature trend. Look at the averages. Sunday, surprisingly enough, will come in the record books above average. And I was complaining that it was cold. So look at, okay, you see this plus 35? Typically when you get about 30 to 35 degrees above average, now you're talking about breaking records or a chance at breaking records. And that's exactly what happened. 35 degrees above average, record. Look at these days. Plus 9, plus 18, plus 35. Minus 22, minus 24, minus 11, minus 8, plus 6, plus 20, plus 20. So what is there a normal in March? No, chaos is normal. That makes an average. But what I try to always explain to people is they're like, oh, isn't the temperature supposed to be 45? I'm like, no, not even close. So the average might be 45, but 20 is normal and 80 is normal, and it just happens to make 40, right, or 50. Is that bad math? 50. There you go. So yes, we've been above and below average. Now this is exactly why we had snowstorms here to wrap up February and March. I always talked about wanting that fluctuation. You don't want to just be solidified above average, that's a ridge, or straight up way too cold below average, you're in the middle of a trough. You want to be in between. You want to ride that jet stream, ride that activity. The activity lives on the jet, that's the highway for the low pressure center. So again, you can look at Sunday. Temperatures started off at 47, but they started crashing in the afternoon. That's why most of the day was in the 30s. But the breakdown this week is quiet weather. The more I nerd out, the more quiet the weather is. So here's your sunshine this morning. We'll see the clouds increase. It's technically a boundary coming in tonight, but it is a weak boundary. Temperatures are near average, but we talked about that being abnormal. So again, the warming trend takes over through Wednesday, and we're going to see a few showers this week, but to me, it's a dry week. Sure, it might sprinkle tonight, might sprinkle Wednesday night, might rain a little Thursday. There's just not enough moisture. We're sitting under the jet stream. So we're in part of the ridge. It just doesn't scream a bunch of rain. So temperatures this morning, they were below freezing. We're hanging out in the low 30s, but we're going to start warming things up. Now you can see this little bit of snow in Canada, but remember we showed you that jet stream? It's up in Canada. Winnipeg's active, very active. They're going to see a bunch of snow, but they're on the jet. Well, they're going to be a lot colder. They're going to see a lot more snow. And that's fine, but whenever a low is to your north, whether it's snow or rain, it doesn't matter. You are by definition warm because, again, the low is just a magnet for the wind. So if the low is to your north, the magnet's to your north, the winds are out of the south. If the magnet goes to your south, the winds come out of the north. 33 to 45 today, mostly sunny skies, calm winds. We're going to see the winds start picking up here by the time we get into the afternoon. It is going to be a breezy day, but a mainly dry day. But on the second half of the day, you're going to see some cloud cover if you guys are coming back from work. So temperatures today, a rare seasonal day. Tomorrow we'll go back above average. So the cloud cover will increase here tonight as we go into, there's that snow we talked about, there's the low. We get what I call the tail. Tail is the cold front. It's always just disappoints with precip. And then tomorrow we quickly see that wind shift again with the warm front and the clouds will increase. Tomorrow, 56 degrees, cloudy skies. For the most part, I'll go 90% cloud cover, broken clouds. But it will be a warm day, especially without that snowpack. Temperatures will continue to ride high. That's the forecast this week. 62 on Wednesday. Warm again. There's that system on Thursday, but I've only got 1/10 of an inch of rain here on Thursday, and it should be rain in the 50s at 54. Friday, cool and 42, and then the weekend right now looking really nice. Saturday, 53. Sunday, back up to 60. Thanks for joining me.